Everyone, happy Thursday. Hope everybody's having a great week. Looks like it's gonna rain here, which is great because we really need the rain. I don't know if you're keeping track of what's happening in the North Carolina, South Carolina areas, but we're in a bit of a drought. So any bit of rain that we can get here is good. I'm just, my grass is just, it's just horrible. But at any rate, again, we're going to be talking about this or breaking points. And this particular video caught my eye today, and it was a bit over the top as always because it's Crystal and the way she frames things. Former MSNBC host who I believe was fired and then decided to start her own show. She was really on the Hill Rising, and then broke off from there with Sagar to then start up Breaking Points, if you're not familiar. Uh, but at any rate, this video is, she's titled it Trump Holds Housing Hostage to Election Rigging Scheme. I'm going to go ahead and let the first minute, just over a minute of this video play because I think it is relatively sets the frame for this.
So Trump had a bit of a meltdown yesterday on Truth Social and announced that he is going to refuse to sign some legislation that passed in bipartisan manner that is meant to promote housing affordability, so to bring down housing costs, unless and until they pass his Save America Act, which is about sort of like vote rigging in Republicans' favor. We can get into more of the details on that in just a moment. He was asked by the press, why would you do this? Why would you hold housing affordability hostage in favor of this, we'll charitably call it voter reform legislation that they're putting? Let's take a listen to his response.
Buying a home is unattainable for so many Americans. Is this election legislation more important to you than resolving the housing crisis?
It's just every election is important. We're doing very well. They want a lot of communists to come in. I'm saying it a little bit differently, but the people that they're pushing are communists.
So he just starts talking about communists winning and taking over, et cetera. I guess that's his rationale for why this legislation is so important to him. Let's put C2 up on the screen. This is one of the True Socials he put out announcing this decision. Today's housing news conference and signing is hereby canceled until such time as we pass the desperately needed Save America Act, which I consider to be a national emergency. He put out another one. Let's put this up on the screen. The Elizabeth Pocahontas Warren-centric housing bill, which is of minor importance compared to lower interest rates and even FISA.
Blah, blah, blah. Um, I'll save you having to listen to more of her kind of rhetoric and also listening to her voice, especially in headphones, is kind of grating. I don't know what it sounds like for anybody else. It's unfortunate that she has such a grating voice. Oh my God. At any rate, there's a lot of claims that are made in there. Just in that snippet that I think are worthwhile. Like a couple of facts of this that this video lays out are around Trump canceling the housing bill signing and did it via a True Social post. The housing bill passed both chambers with strong bipartisan support. That's true. The Save America Act includes requirements for proof of citizenship when registering to vote in federal elections, photo ID, limits on mail-in ballots, with exceptions for military, disabled people, or people that can't physically get to the polls, and directing states to remove non-citizens from the voter rolls and maintain accurate voter rolls. Now, I'll go into more of that later, but there is a notion that non-citizens are not on voter rolls. There are certain states which allow non-citizens to vote in local elections. Just leave it there. Trump referenced preventing communists from winning or coming in. This is very true. He's referencing the recent elections within New York City, both statewide elections and federal elections, where you have DSA candidates, which is Democratic Socialists of America, running under the Democrat banner, which they shouldn't be, but they are, and they're winning in New York City and New York State. They are communists. You could maybe loosely interpret them as socialists, but they are not Democrats. They are, best way to describe them would be, or the most interpretive way of describing them would be socialists, but they are communist. Um, Not that that has much to do with the Save America Act necessarily. It's more of just a talking point from Trump. And then housing unaffordability is addressed in here. Um, and those are the major claims that are made within this particular video. But Krista does a lot of interpretation, and she does a lot of mind reading. And this is the case for most people on this show, on Breaking Points, is that they have this innate ability to get inside the minds of people and determine what they're thinking when they're doing stuff, as opposed to just looking at what they're doing and then making assessment based on the actions versus looking at, like, oh, I know what their intent is because I can read their mind. Like, nobody can do that. I don't. I definitely try always to stay away from that. I've been framing things and looking at things from the fact-based perspective and looking at what's out there. So there's the holding housing affordability hostage, and election rigging schemes. It's a title repeated in framing here. Um, Hostage is a rhetorical spin for using presidential leverage on a bill to advance another priority. It is clear that for some reason, the Senate Republicans do not want to pass this bill. This bill, the Save America Act, has passed the House. It's been sitting in limbo in the Senate since it was passed from the House. Senator Thune, who's a leader of the Republican majority, does not want to bring it out for a vote, and says, like, "Oh, I won't have the votes to pass it." And the rest of us are sitting here going, "You're the leader of the Republican majority. You can have a person, like one or two people, or one person, I think, one or two people, decide, or can you work with them to not vote on it, and then you can have JD Vance come in to have the winning vote. But like, not bringing it forward when 80% of America, this is Republicans and Democrats together, 80% of America believes that having ID to register to vote is important, and having ID to actual vote is important. The other stuff that's within that bill, I think is, I think it's more partisan, but it actually makes a lot of sense. Being able to clean voter rolls, having those voter rolls paired against the federal databases of, like, who is actually a citizen. Like, these are things that are just more common sense. They're being framed now in a partisan lens, but the core of the Save America Act is you have to show that you're a citizen, and you have to have forms of ID to validate that in order to register to vote, and you've got to have ID to vote. Like, it's irresponsible to not do either of those things. Um, and then Trump's rationale on communists is a meltdown, uh, or irrational prioritization. He's insane or completely crazy or acting out of desperation to maintain power despite low approval that's cited. Um, Again, these are subjective characterizations of Trump's stated concerns about election integrity, immigration, and ideological, like, kind of shifts. Reasonable people disagree on the scale of non-citizens voting, or the risks of non-citizens voting, or communist influence. Attributing the action to personal power preservation rather than policy conviction is speculative motive reading. And again, Crystal does this a lot, where she'll frame something that Trump does as being crazy or irrational when the rest of us are sitting here going, yeah, that's actually completely rational. Like, what are you talking about right now? Again, like, leveraging the housing bill getting signed to getting the Save America Act passed Like, yeah, that's called negotiation. That's called leverage. And so you would do that if you want this to pass. And just as a person sitting on the outside, again, you know, the Senate, whether it's a Republican Senate or a Democrat Senate, doesn't seem to be focused on the priorities of the actual constituents that voted them in there in the first place. Like they just don't seem to care about the wants and needs of us people that are out here. And in this particular case, the Republicans control the House, the Republicans control the Senate. That may change come the midterms, although it's looking like it may not. And Republicans may come out actually even more ahead in the House. But as it sits today, Republicans control both. The SAVE Act is important. Yes, the Housing Act and its contents, it's the regulation that's in there, is phenomenal. But it would behoove anybody to say, I will not sign this bill if you do not pass this other bill that is also important to Americans. And to frame it any other way, I think it's just, it annoys the hell out of me. And I know it annoys the heck out of other people as well. Just this kind of constant framing that, oh, he's melting down or, oh, he's completely crazy. Like, no, he's actually acting pretty rational in this case. And some other claims that are in there is that it's a broader strategy to rig elections by controlling voter rolls, ballot delivery, um, and then she references a Stalin quote. Um, Pretty highly interpretive and accusatory, right? Like the Stalin trope is leveraged all the time, which is it doesn't matter who votes, it matters who counts the votes. You could actually apply that more directly to California than any other place, than even attributing it to Trump. It's just kind of ridiculous. Um, I mean, we just all witnessed the California election, and it literally doesn't matter who votes; it matters who counts the votes. Again, yeah, I'm not going to dwell on California. It's a complete S show over there. But linking routine administrative, like voter roll maintenance, is standard. Mail ballot rules exist in many states. To authoritarian rigging without um, without voter roll maintenance or without specific evidence of fraud or intent to steal elections crosses into a partisan narrative. I mean, just generally speaking, um, it just again, um, there's also mentions of Trump's economic policies, but I I just wish I honestly I truly wish that left leaning sites or news organizations like Breaking Points would just stick to the facts and not inject all this partisan spin on motives. Like, just read it for what it is and call it for what it is. I mean, everybody on the outside can see that the Save America Act is highly popular. The arguments against it are weak, and some of them are racist, i.e., predominant individuals coming out and saying that minorities don't have the requisite documents to get an ID or to validate whether or not they're a citizen. Like, are you freaking kidding me? That's like, that is the definition of racist, saying that particular groups of people are less intelligent than yourself. Um, yeah. So there's that side of it, and then there's a negotiation side. And so, yeah, the Housing Act is good. In a vacuum, yes, on a normal day, that bill would pass and Trump would sign it. And Trump backed it, even though he's out calling uh, Elizabeth Warren Pocahontas, which, by the way, is one of the best nicknames for somebody. Um, but in a vacuum, yes, that bill would be signed. But we are not in a vacuum. we're in a world where the Senate itself does not want to pass this act. You could ask yourself, the State of America Act, you could ask yourself why that is. Personal opinion is that Republicans or Democrats, doesn't matter. The reason why these people stay in power for so long and the reason why they continue to get elected every cycle is because they leverage um, weaknesses within voting laws in order to stay in power. And I won't go into detail on what those are. It's highly speculative. But let's just say that there is a concerted effort for some odd reason to not want to pass this bill. And you can come to your own conclusion as to what those are. But again, people agree with the bill. They want it passed. It's unfortunate that the Housing Act is the one that is getting sacrificed here, although it sounds like regardless of what happens within 10 days, the housing bill will automatically pass anyways. So it would require a Trump veto, um, which I don't think that'll do. But the point here is like, guys, like, let's just honestly just stick to the facts and deliver news um, as it's presented. Keep the conjecture out of it, because it's honestly, it's sites like Breaking Point. Um, I'll always use TYT, Hassan Piker. Like these other people come out and then apply the worst motives and intentions to not only Trump but to Trump voters writ large. Um, and it does have an influence on how regular people view the other side, which I'm on the other side. Um, you know, it's no wonder that assassination attempts and political violence is on the rise. You have a whole segment of people that feel like they're justified because they feel like their life is at risk um, because of Trump or MAGA. They feel enticed to go out and loot and riot, peacefully protest while assaulting police officers and ICE agents and other things. They feel like they're completely justified in doing that because this is the rhetoric coming from the left more broadly. Um, I just, at some point, I'm hoping that people will just, understand. And I'm not going to go out there and say that places like Fox News and OAN or News Nation, like I'm not going to go out there and say these places are presenting just the facts and they're not presenting an opinion baked in, or have heavy rhetoric at times. But on the whole, like if I turn on CNN right now, if I turn on MS Now right now, if I turn, I was just watching Breaking Points. Obviously, that's the whole point of this video. If I turn on TOAT, I can guarantee you that within 1 minute of watching any of those segments, somebody will be on a panel calling the right fascists or be comparing Trump to Hitler or talking about how the world is going to end if certain legislation doesn't pass or if certain legislation passes. Most are probably on there right now. I guarantee I could go on and listen to people talking about any of these left-leaning sites or whatever, and also listen to the right as well. See what the chyron at the bottom of the screen says in regard to like just these Supreme Court um, opinions that are dropping. I have on my main TV in my living room. I just keep up the four boxes. It is Fox News, it's CNN, it's MS Now, and then what's the one in the UK? Whatever that one is. Um, because I want to, it's interesting to see the chyrons at the bottom, and more often than not, like you'll always see Fox News Alert, Fox News Alert, Fox News Alert, but it's not like hyperbolic, generally speaking. But if like CNN, MS Now, Supreme Court, Supreme Court lays down the ability to mass deport immigrants, or it's like Trump's victory, it's like Trump's Supreme Court sides with him on XYZ. Like the Supreme Court, it might be 6-3. I mean, you can see some variance in opinions even on the side that agrees, but like it's not Trump's court. Uh, we could say it is because Trump gave it the majority, but they've ruled against him quite a bit. And a lot of this stuff that's coming out, by the way, um, is really all of the challenges. It's losses because the left got overzealous and thought that they could start rolling into district judges and having nationwide injunctions, um, or that uh, district judge could overrule the executive branch on something that was uh, owned by the executive branch. Now, when they, whenever they overstep on the judicial branch, yes, they end up losing those cases. By the way, birthright citizenship, I don't know if that one's gonna go, and it's gonna be very hard for people to go out and go, oh, that's Trump's Supreme Court when he ultimately loses that one, which will be if that one's a full loss, there's going to be it's very bad for America. But sticking on the point here, at some point, I just really wish that the news would get back to the news, and you could probably trace this back to the creation of CNN, the 24-hour news cycle. There's not enough news to fit in a 24-hour news cycle. There's just not. There are long stretches of time where there is nothing going on and they just have to fill it with something. And what they're filling it with, like 95% of that airtime is opinion masquerading as fact. I should say being laundered as facts. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And I am like, it is nice knowing on a positive note that there are a lot of people who watch other news sources um, and follow those. And there are a lot of people out there that may watch a Breaking Points and then go online, leverage AI to kind of break it down for them and figure out where the fact is from the opinion, or leverage AI to dive into a subject to learn more about it and understand like, okay, now I know more about this. So when I'm hearing this, I understand where the facts end and where a lot of opinion kind of begins. Because generally speaking, it's very difficult to do that. Um, but I see a lot more people out there, wanting to, look at facts. And I see it in some of the replies to my stuff on X, right? Like if I get something wrong factually, I have people like putting facts in there, and I'm like I'm happy to admit that I was wrong about something. I also acknowledge when I'm wrong about something. But again, like Breaking Points is just BS, and it's unfortunate that that these sites get as much traction as they do and maintain traction because they don't deserve it. Honestly, they might have deserved it to begin with, especially like Breaking Points when they came over from The Hill and The Hill Rising. They were they were a little more under constraints there as far as how far off the reservation they could go and opinionating stuff versus just putting out the facts. But at any rate, let me know what you guys think in the comments section below, as always. And yeah, just keep believing that the best for America is still ahead. Peace out.